Brazil's journey to independence was unique compared to other Latin American countries, as it was relatively peaceful. The Independence Park in São Paulo commemorates this pivotal moment in Brazilian history. But first, here are some of the major names and important dates in Brazil's history. Dom John VI, King of Portugal. He fled to Brazil in 1808 and led the royal family to there when Napoleon invaded Portugal. This move elevated Brazil's status in the empire. Dom Pedro I, son of the King John VI, around 10 years old when he arrived at the colony of Brazil and subsequently grew up there. He would later become leader of Brazil. Maria Leopoldina, from Austria and born into royalty, being the daughter of Holy Roman Emperor Francis II. Maria Leopoldina and Pedro I married in 1817, serving as a political alliance between Austria and the Portuguese-Brazilian Empire. This made Maria Empress of Brazil and also deeply involved in the colony's political development. José Bonifácio de Andrada e Silva, sometimes called the Patriarch of Brazilian independence, and who was a persuasive advisor to Dom Pedro I. He helped lay the intellectual groundwork for Brazilian statehood and government. 1821. King John VI returned to Portugal after 13 years in Brazil, leaving his now 23-year-old son, Dom Pedro I, as regent of Brazil. 1822. Tensions between Portugal and Brazil by now had reached a boiling point as the Portuguese government sought to reduce Brazil's autonomy. While Dom Pedro I was away in São Paulo, Maria Leopoldina acted as interim head of the Brazilian government at the capital of Rio de Janeiro. She called a meeting with government ministers, including José Bonifácio, and signed a decree on September 2, 1822, that called for the independence of Brazil. She and José Bonifácio then wrote letters to Dom Pedro I urging him to resist pressure from Portugal and to proclaim independence. September 7, 1822, upon receiving letters from both his wife and José Bonifácio, and while in São Paulo at the edges of the Ipiranga River, Dom Pedro I declared Brazil's independence from Portugal with his famous cry, Independência ou Morte, meaning independence or death. This is known as the Cry of Ipiranga, marking the official start of Brazil's independence. Listen to it here. Amigos, as cortes portuguesas querem escravizar-nos e perseguir-nos. De hoje em diante, nossas relações estão quebradas. Nenhum laço nos une mais. Tirem suas braçadeiras, soldados. Viva a independência, a liberdade e a separação do Brasil. Pelo meu sangue, pela minha honra, pelo meu Deus, eu juro dar ao Brasil a liberdade. Brasileiros, a nossa divisa, de hoje em diante será independência ou morte. Between 1822 to 1824, Brazil's authority extended only to Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, and the adjacent provinces shortly after declaring independence. Portugal controlled the rest of Brazil. The fight for independence began with skirmishes between rival militias in 1822 and lasted until January 1824, when the last units of Portuguese military surrendered or left the country. An estimated number of all people killed on both sides of the war was up to 6,200, though this number may not be entirely reliable. 1825, Portugal recognizes Brazil's independence, and Dom Pedro I becomes the first emperor of Brazil. The transition from colony to independent empire was relatively smooth compared to the violent struggles for independence in other parts of Latin America. This was a very brief account of Brazil's rich history. The Independence Park in São Paulo is a phenomenal place to learn more. Visitors can even go where Dom Pedro I declared independence along the Ipiranga River, where today a large monument depicting the event is located. Inside the monument includes a crypt with the buried remains of both Dom Pedro I and Maria Leopoldina. A large museum called the Ipiranga Museum is also located on the park grounds with various exhibits, artwork, and much more. Here is a small taste of the Independence Park and the Ipiranga Museum. Have you been to the Ipiranga Museum in Independence Park? How was your experience? Or when are you planning to visit? Comment to let us know. it is now time to go. Experience Brazil's history at the Independence Park and Ipiranga Museum in São Paulo. Please share, like, and subscribe for more Brazil videos like these. Until next time, até a próxima.